I have some free time, so I thought I'll just interact, do some gupshup. So if you have any questions, I'm not that technically savvy to take any speaker requests, and in the interest of time as well, just type it below, and then I'll pick up anything where I can help. Don't ask any macro or high IQ questions. I've got no real knowledge or competence to answer those. Thank you. View on hospitals after the recent run up. Um, so again, it's difficult to take any short-term view. Of course, the space has run up. The earnings have also improved. If you look at the operating cash flows across the space, I was looking, maybe one or two might have disappointed, but by and large, I think the operating cash flows have improved. And my tracking is about operating cash flows. So when I look at not just hospitals, any high quality asset should double operating cash flows periodically, and let's say a period of 5 to 7 years ballpark. And as long as the operating cash flows are expanding, the margins are stable, the compounding will happen. And periodically, the assets will become overvalued, undervalued, because see, everyone has got a different horizon in the market. So people buy an asset for different time horizons, few weeks, few days, few months, few years. Structurally, I think there is a genuine need for hospitals from an affordable, accessible healthcare perspective. India is a poor country. Majority of world, including the developed markets, have got a large chunk of population. So even in developed markets like US and Europe, poverty is increasing. So I travel a lot. I see that clear signs that poverty is increasing. So even if we exclude developed economy, the majority of the world population density wise is in emerging economies, and people need affordable and accessible health. And there are people who manage hospitals with ethics and compliance. Yes, things can be improved. Narayana's call recently has kind of introduced some, or they're aiming to introduce some measures around that. So try and read those transcripts. So again, valuations is anybody's call. If your horizon, valuation is also a function of how long is your horizon and how good the business is stroke management, or the combo of business and management is. So periodically you will find corrections. Periodically these assets will consolidate, and the consolidation can happen for 1 year, 2 year, longer. We don't know. I don't know. So Syngene as an example, right? I tweeted the other day. It has consolidated for about 2, 3 years since IPO. So IPO came in 2015. It consolidated for 2, 3 years twice, and yet the compounding point to point is about 20% CAGR plus dividends, right? So I like those assets. And again, in case of Syngene, you can see the operating cash flows are doubling pretty much every 5 to 7 years. And so those are the good businesses, good pricing power. I like them structurally, but yeah, short-term view is impossible. But good question. Thank you. Piyush is asking my views on Neuland. So again, no change in my views on Neuland. Same as last year. Price has run up, so be careful. It's a lumpy business. It's an uncertain business. No 2 quarters will be same. The margins will fluctuate. So wait for significant drawdowns, dips where people start rejecting the asset. Typically those are the good entry points in my view, but otherwise no change in the business. It should do, if your view is genuinely about 5 years, it should do very well. The molecules that have recently gone commercial, they will start scaling up over a period of 2, 3, 4 years. So um, longer term, nothing has changed, and no change in my views. I've shared those views on spaces, as well as that document that I shared in September, 16 September tweet, right, last year. So nothing has changed really. Longer term, I'm optimistic. But yeah, it's a lumpy business, a high risk business. There is USFDA risk as well in all of these assets. Be careful. Wait for corrections. Wait for drawdowns, and then see if you have got the appetite to invest in. Because see, every sector is doing well. So when every sector is doing well, uh, then it may not be the best idea to invest into something that you don't understand. If you understand the space of innovator synthesis, uh, then yeah, there is no reason why you should be worried. Uh, Rich Shah, do you see valuation gap narrowing between Mankind Pharma, FDC, Alchem? I don't know. See, Mankind Pharma has scaled up beautifully. How many businesses we have where first generation entrepreneurs have scaled up so brilliantly? Dilip Sangvi did, right? So first generation entrepreneur. So, but very few. I mean, Indoco as an example on the flip side, they've been around for donkey's years. They haven't scaled up. So management has executed in case of Mankind Pharma, but valuations are rich, very rich. And I normally don't invest at such valuations. And again, IPO, I said, you don't expect it to be cheap anyway. So track it, wait for a few years and see how it, in terms of valuation gap. So FDC, I mean, I'm invested with full clear disclaimer disclosure. I like that asset. It's not the first time I'm saying that, but they have to execute. There is some, so if you look at the recent performance in the last 3-4 years, the sales have improved. It used to be 1,000 crore business flat for many years. It has started improving, but they have to they have to show consistency in margins. They have to improve margins and show some real scale up. The fourth Q fourth quarter earnings call never happened. Where is the presentation and where is the earnings call? What's going on? So they have to be little consistent. Otherwise, the valuation wise asset is cheap, but the reason asset is cheap is because they are not delivering. And that's the reason. If your question is, you are comparing Mankind Pharma with FDC, you also have to compare the execution, right? So valuation is also a function of management's perception, which again is a derivative of execution. Mankind has executed, but can things go wrong from here in Mankind? Anything is possible, right? So I normally don't take chance. Same logic for clean science IPO. Why should I buy at inflated valuations? Because things do go wrong. I want to buy an asset when no one wants it really. Thank you. Vibhor, what are Shilpa Medicare problem? Um, Too many problems actually, if you ask my honest opinion. Um, they they're trying to do too many things, and pharmaceuticals is a complicated business. If you're trying to do everything from green tea to biologics and everything else in between, um, either you don't have the focus, you don't understand, so you're just trying few and throwing darts in the darkness, and you're hoping that something would work out. So far, it hasn't worked out, and of course, US FDA risk, as you have pointed, is also there. US FDA risk is high in anything which touches sterile. And so sterile is ophthalmics. So FDC secured that approval recently. Sterile is also biologics. Sterile is injectables. So anything to do with sterile, the US FDA risk is high, and their compliance standards or the expectations, should I say, if you interact with those inspectors, they expect you to do more. So they expected a certain degree of compliance at 50 degrees heat. Now they have increased the bar. Now they expect you to be compliant at 60 degrees because they see pattern that the world is warming up. So FDA compliance is a moving target. So you got to be on your toes all the time, and it's a function of your product complexity as well. See, getting a 0483 doesn't mean much if your product is simple. One step, two step filing, oral filing, you will get a 0483 approval. You file for a complicated, complex API or formulation, multi-step with high risk of cross contamination, sterility getting breached, so on and so forth, and you will get observations. Why not? But those two are comparable? No, you're comparing apple with oranges. You're saying that this business has got zero observations on Form 483 or no Form 483, and the other business has got Form 483. But the product itself could be different, right? The one company may be doing a much more challenging, complicated product, and they got two observations. So that's fine. As long as it's not data integrity and fraud and falsification, you'd be fine. But these US FDA hiccups, they will keep happening. It's nature of how many businesses sector wise, from textile to banking, how many businesses get unannounced external audits? Think about it. How many businesses are compliant in India? So anything where you expect a sudden audit without any announcement, you got to be compliant. So how many chemical companies in India get sudden audit from as high quality as a Japanese regulator or a US FDA? None. What else is there? Question on Syngene. Do you think we'd be able to maintain margins given the price escalation clauses contracts? So I don't predict the future. Um, I think the answer should be what they have done in the past, and try and extrapolate it in a narrow band, give or take 200, 300 basis points. So 28% to 32%. That should be the operating margin range. Gross margin wise, anything between 70 and 80%. Um, that's what, and it's impossible to because see, these guys are doing something which has not been done before. They are not manufacturing autos, tube lights, LED bulbs, that kind of thing. they they are creating something which doesn't exist today. So things will go wrong. You will course correct. You'll do multiple iterations, and hopefully in the process, you will improve. Um, I hope I'm loud and clear, guys. Right? I'm not too sure about the audio quality. Any show of hands, thumbs up or anything if you can hear me loud and clear. Anyone? I can't see. I mean, not. I don't know if I am audible or not. Yeah. Raman says okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So that's on Syngene. Mangalore plant again. So yeah, I think overall, as I said, the operating cash is doubling every few years. Structurally, I think the management is doing the right things. It should compound. And again, this is not an asset where I look at the price. On a periodic basis. I've got no selling strategy unless something really, something as a black swan or something where a big fraud, which I'm not expecting would happen, barring, those 0.0001% probability. Um, I've got no exit strategy. And again, clear disclaimer, it's one of my core holdings, so I'm biased. Um, View on chemicals, see, by and large, I think there may be 1 or 2 quarters of more pain on chemicals. In some cases, again, chemicals are not homogeneous; they are different. Um, so no two chemical companies are strictly comparable. So you can't compare an SRF with I don't know, Aarti Industries for that matter. So the recovery will also be different, and the fall or the crash hasn't been the same. It's not been uniform because, again, just like pharmaceuticals, chemicals is also very differentiated, heterogeneous space. So but yeah, they may be, first half may well be muted, and again, if you get a global recession or any of, because again, chemicals, what are chemicals? They are proxy to global consumption. You have chemicals going in all sorts of things, right? From pigments and paints to pharmaceuticals to agrochemicals to whatnot. So it's a function of global GDP more than anything. Issues with Indoco, so multiple issues. They keep getting USFDA challenges, repeat challenges. So their oral facility had, so stock was 400. It was a clear warning that if companies are struggling on the oral side, they will definitely struggle on the sterile, which is exactly what happened with their Goa 2 recently. And now there is this warning letter, right? So they can't file any new products. And this is the second time that this has happened. The first time it took them 3, 4, 5 years to get out of that mess, and um, they have kind of landed in the same space again with USFDA. So yeah, and execution is something that I'm not happy with. I don't track it over the last few quarters. I disclosed that. Fed up with their sort of compliance standards and lack of execution more than anything. So um, when everything is doing fine, there are better assets which are less risky, which where I find management is executing better. Again, no recommendation, but something like an RPG as an example. So I would rather park my money there. I've been invested in RPG since 2015 as the disclosure, and consult your financial advisor. I'm not trying to recommend anything. I don't have the competence to recommend anything to anyone because our horizon, our appetite, our risk appetite, our cash flow requirements, etc., are all very different. Shubham Biswal is saying, I've noticed how you place importance on the culture. Seen your interview with Dr. Chava, your question on GLS, also on Neuland con call. How do you gauge something so subjective for a firm? Good question. So I look, it's very subjective. I when you spend more time with someone, you try and understand, or you get a better understanding, right? So when you date a girl, what do? Do you understand the other person then and there? Love at first sight वो होता नहीं है ना, सब theory की बात है. So you spend time with someone, you see how they conduct their investor calls. So decal as an example, the call will never start on time, and then they will keep murmuring. They don't sound certain compared with someone like a Syngene, right? There's a stark difference. See, that's one area. And again, I'm not trying to demean or inflate anything here, but I'm just giving an example because you asked the question. So, text of the narrative in annual reports, presentations, consistency of that narrative, the tone of their interaction, ask them difficult questions, and see how they react. Are they trying to hide anything? And those subtle signals that you must watch out for. They tell you a lot about the culture, because the culture is always top down, and so and then that kind of percolates within your supply chain teams, within your R&D, within your HR, everything. So that's what I use. Again, it's very fuzzy, and there is no metric that I could share. ROE is one. If you want to see how effective the management is, see where the ROE was 10 years back, where is it today, as an example, why the ROEs were depressed, why they have improved, what do you expect. So that's kind of giving you some sort of qualitative indicators about the management. But culture is something which, the more you interact with someone, the more you kind of discover. Uh, which is, are things improving for Laurus? Look at the fourth quarter number. So again, nothing has changed. So I shared my Boeing 7474 engine view, right, a few months back. Nothing has changed. I still expect that the earnings will start recovering in the second half, and exactly what management has also said on recent call. Um, Fourth quarter of this fiscal should, fingers crossed, should be better. There is a high base in first quarter, second quarter, possibly third quarter onwards. There may be some improvement. Markets are generally forward looking, so we don't know how much has already been discounted. We really don't know. On a longer term, 5-year view, I expect cash flows to be significantly better than where they are today. USFDA risk है नहीं है, 100% है. No business is immune. No business is kind of immune from USFDA. So वो challenges हर business में आएंगे, Laurus में भी आ सकते हैं. So far their compliance track record is okay. So let's see. But yeah, I'm invested as a disclosure. I expect cash flows to be significantly better 4-5 years out. So maybe the pessimism will start to fade away from the back end of this fiscal, depending upon the execution, the earnings, etc. And then again, the Bloomberg Queen, the PQ Prime interview, it was quite detailed. So you get to see the kind of mindset the management has got, where the capital allocation is going. Majority of it is going in CDMO, right? And there is a wait period. You look at Mangalore API for Syngene, you look at any sort of capital allocation in this CDMO space, there will be negative operating leverage to begin with. It's the nature of the beast. Good news is back-ended. Then your views on Natco. So again, Natco is a very different business. It's the patent challenging business, right? And that's the reason you don't find the consistency in the cash flows and also in the stock price. So many years back, I think 2014-15, the stock touched a high and it hasn't broken that high vis-a-vis some of the branded generics assets like RPG or JB Pharma, right? Their cash flows have grown, their earnings have grown, their stock prices have grown because it's a very different business. Natco is challenging the patents. They're doing the difficult things. Read Q4 con call. Someone asked them, what's your take on CDMO? And they clarified that, they don't like CDMO or they have got no intention to be in CDMO because their business model is directly opposite of CDMO. See, what is CDMO? You partner with an innovator and you develop the innovator's IP. What Natco is doing is challenging innovator's IP. So complete opposite. So they can never be in a CDMO type business because it's North Pole, South Pole. Read that Q4. It's a very interesting question. I think it's further down. But otherwise, management is triple A grade. Triple A grade, absolutely no doubt. But the business will be lumpy. That's the nature. You win a big jackpot if you crack a para 4. Otherwise, you just keep searching for that. So it's kind of semi lottery business, if I could put it that way. But management quality is impeccable, top notch. No recommendation either way. So as a disclaimer. Aarti Pharma Labs, so I've shared my views on Aarti Pharma Labs, right? They should have done the con call. How do we know what they're doing here? Kisko pata hai? So numbers, I'm not a guy who will be impressed purely by looking at the numbers. I need to talk to the management directly or indirectly. So if 10 analysts are asking management in a public earnings call, and if I could listen to that, if I could read the transcript, I can make my informed decision afterwards. If you have got no intention to interact with minority shareholders, then God bless you. Recently, USFDA let us on Indoco. So yeah, I think we covered Indoco. Then you have introduced me to the business of Praj Industries. Is it such a pleasure to follow this company? Okay, thank you. And looks like the number of optionalities are also coming to life. What do you think of the optionalities other than known ones like ethanol and CBG? So again, optionality wise, so guys, he's referring to the detailed presentation from 2021 and also the API presentation that I did for SOIC again in 2021. And they were done pretty close to each other. I think the API call was in April. We released it few months late. So if you search for maybe go on YouTube and search for API SOIC and type my name, you will get that. In the initial 10 minutes, I share some insights or what of my view more than insight on Praj although the title is API, but I've shared something on Praj in initial 10 minutes. And the bigger one is in the biotechnology webinar, and towards the back end of that, there was a 15-20 minutes dedicated session or coverage on Praj. I like the business. Again, it's a lumpy business because it's kind of trying to do difficult things in biochemistry. So and they've got multiple streams. The thing that don't I'm not comfortable with Praj is the execution on the non-energy, non-bio, so high purity. As I see some scale up has happened recently, so that's encouraging, that's positive. But there were a lot of optionality from renewable chemicals to um, bioplastics to critical equipments, oil and gas. So that's also one of their domains, right? Zero discharge. So they've got too many interesting businesses, and if they could dedicate a CEO division wise, and that would be helpful, because you need to track each division or each business line of business as a profit center, because it kind of puts pressure on execution and delivery. But otherwise, I think by and large, I'm positive. And again, you can look at the cash flows and the dividends, right? So I initiated this asset way back in 2014 when the price was 39, $40. I still remember it was August 2014. So it was $40, mota mati 38 से 40 के बीच में कुछ भाव था, and now pre-tax they are giving 10% dividend yield. Of course, it's not 10% after tax, but so the journey has been rewarding. And the management change will happen at some point, right? Because I believe Dr. Pramod Chaudhary will quit at some point in time, and there isn't, to the best of my understanding, there isn't a next generation who is interested. So, some transfer of management will happen. And again, management change, as I keep saying, is a binary digital event. So we will have to reassess. But so far, I mean, structurally, I think it's looking promising. Voice is clear. Thank you, Pankaj. Pretty clear. Thanks, Shahid. Jai Hanuman Ji ki. And then what else? Question. Follow on second question from Ritz. Can Hikal be bought now? I don't know. That's not the question that I can easily answer. I'm invested. This management tussle is interesting, and ultimately, again, it's my hunch that it will, at some point, it will come to minority voting, and these things will drag on. And I think Baba Kalyani, because they never attended any investor call, so Baba Kalyani is not the true management, to my knowledge, right? Because they were not attending any of the investors. They have never faced any investor grilling. So they own that stake, but they are a kind of a non-operating sleeping partner. And if they get the right sort of buyer, if I'm Baba Kalyani, if I get a right sort of buyer at my price, I will exit, and um, the buyer would then have to partner, because the buyer will acquire 33-34% stake, right? Let's take a hypothetical example. Again, disclaimer, I'm invested. Let's take a hypothetical example. Baba Kalyani finds a strategic buyer, someone who understands CDMO space. They sell the entire stake to that buyer. That buyer partners with Hiramats, the existing management, and together they take the business to the next level. Imagine that kind of a scenario. Why we only imagine depression? I mean, नीचे डाउनसाइड तो 100% है, वो तो सभी को पता है, तो स्टॉप लॉस डाल दो 20% का, गिरेगा तो आपका निकल जाएगा, कोई बात नहीं है. बट इमेजिन अ ब्लू स्काई. सोचने में क्या जाता है, टैक्स फ्री है ना सोचना तो. So imagine this kind of scenario unfolding where a strategic buyer comes in. Baba Kalyani would be happy. He gets the money, and together, 1+1, it could be 11 from a management bandwidth perspective. And from a minority shareholder, I think minority would vote the existing management. I'm happy with this. So I asked them questions on the third quarter earnings call. Very honest responses. I would definitely vote for this management over Kalyani's any day. And they also got the USFDA sort of audit recently. They came out pretty clean on that one. So it's a USFDA grade management. So what more can we ask for? Again, it's a lumpy business, and there is a negative operating leverage because a lot of capacities are getting commissioned. They will scale up over a period of 2-3 years. So we have to have patience. ये सब धंधे में ये नहीं कि आज आज लगाओ, ये वो नहीं है। खाद खुजली वाला ना, रिंग कटर, अभी लगाओ अभी फायदा। क्या है, curious to know who is the lenalidomide manufacturer for Natco's Revlimid। अब हो गया यार Revlimid का गेम वो। So let's focus on new frontiers। So who else? View on DMCC. So I've given my view on DMCC on recent spaces. My view is same as management's. Read the fourth quarter transcript. Um, they're talking about Chinese resuming their production, but not the consumption. So I'm fully aligned with management's view on that one. So my view is same as management. So you can read the transcript. Thank you. What else is there? Do you follow Bajaj Healthcare? No, Sumit, I don't. And the reason I don't like Bajaj Healthcare as on today is the pathetic gross margins. I like specialty businesses where the gross margins are either improving or at least above um, 50%. I try. Um, where the gross margins are, I think in case of, so I looked at this asset 2 years, 18 months back because there was a lot of Twitter chatter and I wasn't following this. So I looked at their margins. I mean, margins are nothing. So it's kind of a pretty generic business. Again, generic business is a treadmill business anyway. So 1 or 2 quarters maybe great. The stock may do well if you are stuck, and see if you are getting a good exit opportunity. um, Management, they should do earnings calls because then we get to understand them better. So you're saying management is guiding for 3-4 molecules each year. I mean, are they commoditized molecules? How many other players are there? What sort of margins they expect? It's easy to file a DMF. It's not easy to get 20% market share in the US. So if the business is great, it should be reflected in gross margins. Period. Can you please share a view on Aarti Drugs, Granules, Alembic Pharma? Alembic Pharma is a Sartans story. I never liked that, so I don't track it. Granules will take a couple of years, I suppose. The management is doing all the right things in terms of backward integration, the green, the bio catalysis, the enzymatic route. But again, they are doing something which has never been done before. So it will take time. I don't expect any sort of magic to happen over the next 2 years, possibly 3 years, but it's a journey. And what they have done in the last 20-25 years is a good indicator of what they can do over the next 20-25 years, and that's how we look at things. Nothing is short term in pharmaceuticals, unfortunately. Aarti Drugs again is a pure commodity type business. You buy them at when the valuations are near or below their 15-year mean. And when I say 15-year mean, I'm talking about price to book or EV to sales. And if you find any business, any such business which is metals, steel, um, commodity chemicals, where the current valuations are near their 15-year mean, Screener has all that data if you do a little bit of legwork. And if you find any asset which is near or below that long-term mean, and also compare with the peer group, if it's undervalued, you go for it. I expect the earnings to improve for Aarti Drugs, if I'm completely honest, based on my best guess. Again, I don't track them very closely because it's a largely commoditized API. And they also have got USFDA challenge ongoing. For last 4 or 5 years, they haven't been able to clear that. So yeah, but otherwise, I think this fiscal may be better than last fiscal because again, raw material price deflation, right? The chemical KSM intermediate prices have crashed, and that's helping the API players. That's also helping the branded and generic players. So YOY on a low base, the earnings may look better this fiscal. But let's see. No recommendation, obviously. View on Vinati Organic. So again, Vinati, one or two product concentration is something which I generally don't. So that's the reason I like CDMO. That's the reason I like hospitals or branded generics, because where is the concentration? Nothing. It's pretty diversified, across different customers. Hospitals have got too many customers. Branded generics, again, too many molecules, too many therapeutic areas, lot of diversification. I like such businesses because you don't know what you don't know. Product concentration is something that's so ATBS, and there is one more product that they have, right? Um, Isobutyl, which again, IOL also manufactures isobutyl for their ibuprofen, right? Valuations is something which is rich given the product concentration. Management has definitely executed brilliantly, but most chemical managements have executed. So again, look for 15-year valuation mean or 5-year valuation mean, because 15-year for chemicals I don't think is a fair representation. Maybe 10 years, because the China plus one really started around 2010 2012. So maybe look at the last 10 years, and if you find the valuations are near those mean values, then maybe there is an opportunity. I don't own it. I don't track it very, very closely though. Jubilant Pharmova, any views on it? So again, I like depression. I like rejection. I like when investors start throwing up. Jubilant Pharmova is showing all those characteristics today because of those one-time write-off. So my best guess, I mean, the earnings should double over the next 2 to 3 years. Even if the valuations don't improve, then possibly we have a doubler in 3 years. Possibly, fingers crossed. No forecast. I mean, I'm not trying to predict the future here. But again, as I said, there's a depression. No one wants that asset. And so when no one wants anything, no one wanted Neuland last year at $1,000. So when no one wants something, then that means the sellers are out. So from that perspective, it's interesting, but management execution should improve. They should start turning around the generics business over the next 2 years. The pharmacy, the radio pharmacy business, the triad that they acquired should start turning around as well. Some initial signs in Q4. They should start इंटरेक्टिंग विद स्मॉल इन्वेस्टर्स यार. मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि वही इंस्टीट्यूशंस तो वही बुक कीपिंग क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं, मेजॉरिटी ऑफ देम, unless you find an Aditya or someone from that guy ना, तरंग अग्रवाल, ओल्ड ब्रिज. I like him. तो ये लोग अच्छे क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं, बट बाय एंड लार्ज वो इंस्टीट्यूशंस का वही रहता है, घिसा पिटा का. अगले क्वार्टर में ही सबकी प्यास है, भूख है. Hikal we have covered. What else is there? Since the chemical industry, so Karthik is asking, since the chemical industry is going to boom due to China plus one, वो हो गया भैया. बूम वाला फेज जो वैल्यूएशन का था, जिसमें वो 50 टाइम्स प्राइस टू सेल्स मल्टीपल के आईपीओ आए, दैट इज ऑल हिस्ट्री. Now from this point onwards, it will be an earnings driven story. Not, don't expect any re-rating. So if an asset is already at 10 times, 15 times price to sales, why do you expect further re-rating? Also, don't just look at price to sales. Look at EV to CFO, operating cash in the denominator and enterprise value in the numerator. What is enterprise value? It's the market cap plus total debt, long term, short term, all included. So that is your enterprise value, market cap plus all the debt. Then divide that with CFO, you get that on the screener. The cash flow from operating cash flow after working capital, and see what the valuation is and how it compares with the peer group. See how the valuation is on price to book. Again, I do multiple. So that's what Munger says. Na? Don't look at one ratio, just PE or even price to sales or price to book. Look at 5 or 6 different ratios. And if an asset is cheap, absolute cheapness, not relative, on all of those parameters, then you need to dig deeper and try and find out more about the management. Any view on Marks's Pharma? So Marks's Pharma is pretty run-of-the-mill sort of ibuprofen. I mean, I don't track it too closely, to be honest with you. So I'm not invested. Look for others. So I think there are some people on Twitter, they track it. See if you can find. So I mean, I'm not invested, and I don't even have Marksons on my watch list. So I I don't know. Shubham Biswas, businesses that are in transformative phase, Neuland as an example, do we add them when they are performing well? So I answered this question, Shubham. Any pharmaceutical in particular, you if it's export oriented, so CDMO, US generics, you tend to look at them when they are not doing well, right? Because you want pessimism. ऑप्टिमिज्म वाले भाव भी फिर ऑप्टिमिज्म वाले ही होंगे ना. So वो 1000 वाला stock अभी 3000 है ना. So sentiment again, earnings have improved, their cash flows have significantly improved. I mean, no one expected Neuland to deliver the kind of earnings that it has. So but again, with a lumpy business है, future का किसको पता है. So let's see how they execute, and if they start executing with consistency of 20-22% EBITDA margins. So PI as an example, they started 16-17% operating margins around 2013. But the moment they started executing with consistency, market gave them 7 times price to sales, 8 times price to sales. So number consistency के Syngene को क्यों मिलता है 8 times price to sales? Consistency का. Full toss investments, interesting name, right? Full toss. So is it the Yorker that has gone wrong? And okay, so let's read the question. I have a query regarding CDMO, say contract manufacturing in general. Contract manufacturer doesn't know what it has to manufacture until it gets the contract. No, not quite. So CDMO would know upfront because they are engaged in the clinical trials phase, right? So again, depends when you picked up that molecule. You may have picked up that molecule in the preclinical stage. You may have picked up that molecule in phase 1. You may have picked up that molecule in phase 2 or phase 3, or the molecule is already commercial and you are picking it up as a tech transfer because the innovator wants you to be a second source to mitigate their risk of cash flows. Imagine a scenario where molecule is commercial and the innovators only got one supplier. Earthquake, any USFDA adverse audit outcome, anything could go wrong with that supplier, and that innovator will be out. A patented molecule not generating cash flows for an innovator is a nightmare scenario. CEO का नौकरी चला जाएगा. So the molecule could all be commercial, and then they're doing the validation batches, which they sometimes bucket under development. Some of them, right? And those who disclose. So they know upfront what's coming, and it's part of the contract. The innovators will give them enough visibility. The wording of the contract is such that if we get out of this contract, we'll pay you a penalty. Or the innovator will say, we'll pay 30, 40, 50% of your capex. And so they partner. So typically, a supplier, a genuine CDMO would know many years in advance. So phase 3 itself could be a 3-year cycle, 4-year cycle. So they know what's coming, and because they're included in the filing and everything. So they get that visibility, and on the back of that visibility, they plan capex upfront. That's how the industry works. And we have covered this in detail in Alpha Series 18, यार. 2020 का है ये. If you just Google Alpha Series 18, it's a 2.5 घंटे का session. It's a free. You may need to register if you haven't previously, but otherwise it's completely free, and I've explained everything in detail there. Vibhor Vash is asking, which is your favorite domestic branded generics business? One which is number one in all therapies and has the love and support of all doctors. देखो ये all therapy और all doctor जो है ना, ये इसका आंसर है 0, including Abbott, including the MNCs. So none. So I think the answer is none. All doctors and all therapies, I don't know, because I don't have the data for all doctors. How can something be liked by all doctors? And see, it's a fragmented industry, branded generics. For every molecule, there are multiple competitors. So, आप थोड़ा सा इसको देखो क्वेश्चन को. So view on Supriya, same as before. So it's there. You look at my Twitter timeline. I covered that in one of the previous spaces. Krishna Diagnostic again वो cash flow वाला government का उसमें angle है थोड़ा सा, और diagnostic in my view is a kind of a lower entry barrier space. And I see every possibility that these pharmaceutical companies will enter the diagnostic space because they have already got the brand. They've already got the doctor connect, and it's very common for doctor to make the decision that किससे test कराना है. So the space, diagnostics space, may get crowded at some point, if not already. तो थोड़ा सा उसको एंगल को देखना है. Otherwise, asset is good. You need affordable and accessible healthcare for sure. Natco Pharma we have covered, and so someone is asking the view again. So we have covered previously. Which is the next question? Eris. So Vibhor is asking the next question. Eris keeps buying drugs from other companies, yet keeps falling downward in ranks and therapies. Investor presentation. Sun Pharma is the favorite among chemists, but उनके US generics की बास नहीं जाती. Interesting tech. See, so Sun Pharma is a conglomerate, right? SOTP देखना पड़ेगा. वो अगर सेपरेटली अपने इंडिया बिजनेस को लिस्ट करेंगे तो अगेन ग्लेनमार्क वही सेम लॉजिक. ग्लेनमार्क business India, only India, is a completely different economics versus Glenmark US generics. Same for Sun Pharma. Again, even if in case of Sun Pharma specialty, वो लोग एनालिस्ट बोलते हैं ना इसमें स्पेशलिटी है Sun Pharma में. इलुमिया है वो बायोलॉजिक्स जो है. किसी ने भी फाइल कर दिया ना जिस दिन इलुमिया, उसी दिन Sun Pharma करेक्ट होगा. जस्ट बाय फाइलिंग अप्रूवल तो मिलेगा. सो ये प्रॉब्लम रहेगा बायोलॉजिक्स में और ये बायोसिमिलर्स में. Competitive intensity will not go away because you create a market and someone enters at a lower price point. So वो ये, but India branded business of all of these are good. Eris का question, so they keep diluting the ROE ना. Eris का when they landed for the IPO, what was the ROE versus where the ROE is today? तो वो मजा नहीं आया ना, इसीलिए the stock has gone nowhere. वो एग्जीक्यूशन वो आप इनऑर्गेनिक में वो रिस्क रहता है ना. Organic growth is better growth, but in domestic pharma you can only grow so much organically. You have to acquire, but the better strategy is to acquire small bites, bolt-on acquisitions, some products, few products at a time, छोटा acquisition, integrate it, increase or improve your cash flows, then buy something more, integrate it, improve the economics before buying and after buying, and then look for something else. Okay, what else is IOLCP venturing into reg markets, focus on non-IBU business. So again, I've shared my views in detail on previous spaces on IOLCP. There's a change of management, so we need to see when they come on the earnings call and interact with us, and then we'll take a fresh view from there on. I've disclosed, I've trimmed IOLCP recently. I disclosed that. So, but I'm again partly invested, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed because yes, the transformation is there. IOL of 5 years back is not the same as IOL of today. So, but we need to see the cash flows compounding and what's the thought process of the new management. Okay, what else? Shubham is asking too many questions. Yeah, have been trying to play cyclicals, not pharma specific. I know for a fact that the pricing has been bad in these industries. So, he's quoted few examples: low earnings and low price to book, those depressed earnings. Is that the way to add? Again, you need to look at what else is available at depression. across sectors, because you've got finite money, na? So why only look at chemicals? Why only look at unbranded? Why not cement? Why not defense? Why not railways? Why not autos? Just giving you examples because your cash is finite. जरूरी थोड़ा है कि यूएस एफडीए वाला ही रिस्क लेना है. विशाल मल्होत्रा, व्हाट्स योर व्यू ऑन सुदर्शन केमिकल? यार डिस्क्लोज्ड है ये तो मेरा व्यू. आई एम बायस्ड, I've always been biased. तो लंपी है वो, सिक्लिकल एसेट है. पिगमेंट्स विल कम इन फेवर, दे विल गो आउट ऑफ फेवर. उसमें रॉ मटेरियल का चैलेंज कभी आएगा कभी नहीं आएगा. सो बाय सच बिजनेसेस और एसेट्स व्हेन नथिंग इज वर्किंग, द मार्जिन्स आर डिप्रेस्ड, people have given up, there is mayhem, there is rejection, and then wait for the music to start. When the music starts, you exit or you trim, or at least don't buy fresh. That's how you play. And Sanjay Kumar is asking, what specialty chemical exuberance was a specialty chemical exuberance over? Is this a sector with real China plus one opportunity, or was that irrational expectation? No, so see, if you look at the cash flows of these businesses, the sales growth of these businesses over the last 10 years. So you're asking even 5 years. So you're asking the question for 5 years. Take for 5 years, take for 10 years. Forget narrative of China plus one for a second. Compare how the sales have compounded in the last 10 years for something like any high quality. Let's not take names, and see how the operating cash flows have compounded in the last 10 years, and then see how the chemicals, global chemicals, because these are global players, they supply, they export as well, right? How the chemicals industry has grown. So if the chemical industry globally has grown at single digit, mid single digit, and these guys have grown cash flows in double digit, what does that tell you? Tells you that they have gained market share. They're growing faster, much faster than the global chemical space. So they may not have gained market share from China, they may have gained market share from US or European players. But think logically from a businessman or an entrepreneur perspective, person who is buying these ingredients, can you risk everything from a single source? Common sense says you should not. China is a difficult country to predict. It can be hostile at times. They may use these chemical supply chain as a weapon. Why will they not use it? They're not stupid. So if the hostility increases, they will use this as a source of weapon, just like Russia is using the gas in the Ukraine war. फिर क्या करोगे? So you need diversification. Any sensible customer would have a diverse source, whether it's a pharma company in India or whether it's a pharma company in US. Have two or three suppliers, at least two or three suppliers for the or qualified suppliers, and take consistent supplies from them. Not ये नहीं कि qualify करके छोड़ दिया. Keep buying 10-20%. So previously you were buying 100 from China. Today you should be buying 20 from India, or 10 from India, 10 from Europe, 10 from somewhere else. And then if you are happy with the quality of those new suppliers, increase the exposure and take China to 50% or lower, and and give a statement to the Chinese supplier that you are not dependent on them. Then the level playing field will be established, and as a customer, you will be the one who would be smiling. सर बुक रिलीज डेट और किस मंदिर के अराउंड कितने चक्कर लगाने पड़े? नहीं, सी, so I had to rewrite some of the chapters because my whole sort of um, so it's when you're writing a book, you are creating a painting, and if midway down the road you realize that yaar ye kuch baat jami nahi, so you need to rewrite, right? So I'm in that phase, and there are multiple angles. I don't want to start divulging because फिर वो मजा नहीं आता. But I can assure you guys that this is not a 101 on investing. Value investing कैसे करनी है, return ratios कैसे, it's nothing to do with that. I'm not targeting a novice. I'm writing a book which I believe, hopefully, again, it depends how it pans out, should clear some of the myths across multiple sectors, right? And focus will be on life sciences space, not just pharmaceuticals, and the innovation in life sciences or science in general, because that's what I understand. The focus, the heart, the soul of that book will be around that innovation in science and technology. Uh, and there is a clear use case for that, but I had to rewrite few chapters and I'm in the middle of that. So and I'm referencing a lot of, because I've done so much study over the last 10-15 years. I want to bring all of that, so I don't want to put my opinion in a book. I want to, of course I will add my view, but I want to back it up with um, solid research just to make it worthwhile for the reader. um, तो थोड़ा सा पेशेंस रखो, हो सकता है अगले साल आए. आई कैन नॉट कमिट ऑन टाइम. इस साल खत्म हो गई, इस साल रिलीज कर देंगे. एंड आई विल बी रिलीजिंग ऑन किंडल, बिकॉज मेरे को ये फीडबैक मिला है फ्रॉम मल्टीपल सोर्सेज कि इंडिया में सब चीज कॉपी हो रहा है. सो ट्राई एंड अवॉइड अ हार्ड कॉपी. तो आई मे जस्ट be releasing it on Kindle only, but I'll try my best to do justice, because I'm investing a lot of my personal time along with the family recreation, and summer months is good for travel, right? So कभी कभी धूप निकलती है यहाँ यूके में. So but I thank you for asking. uh, what else? Too many full tosses यार. full toss वाल सर, आप वो अल्फा सीरीज 18 एक बार आप गूगल करके उसको देख लो. You will understand a lot of it. Then there is second one, which is Alpha Series 25. So once you are done with Alpha Series 18, you should spend some time on Alpha Series 25. Between these two, you will understand this space if you take your notes and do some further legwork on the back of it. Thank you. शुभम बिस्वाल भैया, कितने क्वेश्चन पूछोगे? रुको, तुम्हारा हम बाद में लेंगे अभी. Sorry, there's too many questions, and I don't want to just go on and on. So again, Suven Pharma, how do you see it scaling? So again, it's a management change, 0 or 1. We have to see what the incoming management does, right? I'm invested, but yeah, I'm watching closely. The management transition, it's a game changer. Um, it could go either way if they execute brilliantly, and I hope so. Then it can scale up beautifully. The cash flows and everything, I'm perfectly fine. Margins, वो सब में problem नहीं है. Jayesh is asking, how do you value a business like Neuland? You don't know the kind of molecules they are working on, their potential. So wait for my framework, Jayesh. इसीलिए book लिख रहा हूँ ना. It's not something that I can explain on a spaces session, or maybe on a couple of tweets. So hold fire. Hopefully, I will be able to answer your question. Sanjay Kushwaha, how track management new company when con call not happening? Yeah, it's not possible to track. Look at the return ratios and the sales and the valuations, and take an initial exposure if you really have to, or just track it from sidelines. एक stock ले लो ना. But yeah, don't allocate disproportionately if the management is not doing earnings call, because पता नहीं होता यार किसी का character. I can show you any P&L EPS, doesn't matter. Milap Shah is asking your view on Glenmark Life Sciences. Again, it's public. Look through my previous spaces session. The only way Glenmark Life Sciences can create value is by an outright sale to a private um, equity. I don't think a pharmaceutical company would be interested in buying Glenmark Life because of that relationship. They're joined at the hip with the parent, right? So no pharmaceutical company who is competing with Glenmark will be interested in this asset. So and parent needs cash. Um, so that's my thesis. I've shared it in detail in previous spaces session. It's there on my Twitter timeline. You can search through that. Thank you. Jayesh is asking your view on PI, given that they've acquired pharma assets. Yeah, so we need to see the integration, Jayesh, how they integrate and how they scale it up going forward. Today the business is priced to perfection, if I'm completely honest. 8-9 times sales पे है, largely an agro business today. The acquisition that they've done is on a relatively small scale. Again, we don't know the pipeline of what they've acquired. Is it all innovator? Is it generic CDMO? तो वो सारा कुछ डिटेल पता नहीं है. The last earnings call I attended, responses were rather cryptic, if I'm completely honest. So wait and watch for execution. No rush to jump in or change any view. They have executed well so far. We know that it's there in the numbers. But market will reward the forward rate of change. जो हो गया वो हो गया. What else? Your view on Copran? So again, no different view. Again, it's a generic business. Very low base FY23. Hopefully, they should do better in FY24. Again, they are not doing investor calls, right? Presentation also is kind of not consistent, so they are not doing a presentation in every quarter. So they do occasionally. So thoda sa consistency nahi hai, and again it's a generic business, so it will be lumpy in terms of margins. Kabhi high hoga, kabhi low hoga. Their Panoli expansion in Gujarat has been waiting for regulatory clearances for ages now. तो वो देखना पड़ेगा how they execute, and stock has run up from recent lows, right? 75-80% तो चली गया है भाव, तो कुछ ना कुछ तो optimism है. Any view on Orchid Pharma? Orchid is a good asset. Management is definitely A grade in Orchid. There is a biotechnology angle in Orchid for sure, but that will play out over a period of time, starting with this PLI, backward integration. So they are in the right space, and they are a dominant player in cephalosporin. They have good management, good scientific capability. Again, it depends how they scale up from here, right? Dhanuka Group is definitely, because they have executed in other areas, right? So we can trust them on that part. But again, pharmaceutical is a different business compared to agro. So we'll have to wait and watch. Question on Jagsonpal Pharma. Manish Gupta capability in doing acquisition, as Jagsonpal has cash in hand. So again, it's not what you acquired, what valuation you acquired. That's also important. And then how you integrate once you have acquired. So that's important as well. It's got three parts. Second part of that same question is, has there been significant change in upper management of Jagsonpal? So I suppose they have done some restructuring at a divisional level. The MR teams, previously they had one division, now they have got two. The fiscal 23 sales growth was market in line with market 8-9%, which is how the IPM, which is same as the IPM market growth. They should maybe not Q1, because I think last year Q1 they had one big molecule, so the base is high going into Q1. Profitability Q1 may depress the last year, so on a YOY basis, I would rather look for the profitability side of things more than the sales. And competitive intensity structure, so Gynex, so again branded generics competitive ही है space, regardless of which therapeutic area. By and large, there may be few pockets here and there, but by and large competitive spaces. So again, देखना पड़ेगा execution कैसे होता है. And I'm invested as a disclosure, but again, none of us know the future कैसे pan out होगा in terms of acquisitions, the inorganic side of things. Cash flow is good. Return ratios should improve going forward. But branded business थोड़ा सा scale up करने में is not easy. So we'll have to see. Relatively मुझे RPG Life थोड़ा ज़्यादा सस्ता लगता है relative to Jagsonpal. Purely, I mean, that's just my opinion. So आप भी देखना थोड़ा सा, क्योंकि उसके रिटर्न रेशियोज बेटर भी हैं और मुझे वो relatively cheap भी लगता है. But again, no recommendation. So I'm invested in both. Naveen Agarwal is asking longevity of business in Naveen Fluorine and PI industry. Again, so longevity change hota rehta hai na. See, businesses, the good management will keep transforming. So it's a moving target. So Laurus का एग्जांपल लो ना 6 साल पहले वो प्योर प्ले ARV था अभी तो नहीं है so opportunity size itself is a moving target. So you add more capabilities, just like these IT guys, right? So they were not in digital transformation few years back or the cloud computing. Now they are. Tomorrow they will be more integrated into artificial intelligence. So again, you build more capabilities. That's how the good quality management works. Prakash is asking any view on makers and resonance. Again, no con call, no investor interaction, no presentation, no cash flow. So how do we know? I remain invested, but my exposure is almost negligible. When they start scaling up, show me the real operating cash flow, show me traction, um, and then start engaging. कम से कम एक press release तो दो यार detail की. Call नहीं भी कर सकते हो तो. Then we get more confidence. Your views on Sequence Scientific, Copra and Makers Lab. Again, I've covered all of them previously. SMS Pharma, any views? So, you read the fourth quarter FY23 transcript. I asked few questions. The responses were acceptable, honest. So kind of a young generation, second generation management, Vamsi, right? But again, it's a generic business, so it will go through its cycles. The best businesses in pharmaceuticals are branded generics and the innovator synthesis, and of course hospitals, because entry barrier is high in all these three businesses. Generics mein entry barrier is lower because someone creates the market, you enter with a lower price point, you start undercutting. So the entry barriers are lower in generics. So the multiples will be lower, the predictability will also be less. Uh, I think that's about it. Any view on Piramal Pharma and its rights issue? So, Milap, I've given a detailed view on Piramal Pharma. If you tag me, tweet and tag me, and I can share that. It's a recorded session, so no change since that view. Um, See, the rights issue will dilute equity further. The equity will be very bloated. So 500 crore के पैट पे मोटा माटी 4 या 5 का EPS बनेगा. Not great, right? So if I assume that they will get 500 crore PAT next year, इस साल तो मुश्किल ही लग रहा है. So again, the stock is anyway 20 times FY25 or maybe 25 times FY25. I don't know. तो वो थोड़ा सा equity बहुत ज़्यादा bloated है. They, I think the demerger itself, they should have done the other way around. जैसे आरती फार्मा और आरती इंडस्ट्रीज ने किया ना, 1 share for every 4 of आरती इंडस्ट्रीज. They should have done exactly the same, that you get 1 share of Piramal Pharma for every 4 share of, or at least 101, जैसे Jubilant Pharmova ने किया, equal split. वो 4:1 जब दे दिया ना, तो वो पूरा का पूरा वो डंप हो गया. And we also misread it initially, right? But I kind of course corrected after the initial first call में ही मुझे समझ में आ गया था कि गेम बच गया है, निकल लो. तो so mistakes happen यार, छोटा मोटा mistake होगा. Investing is probabilistic. We'll keep getting one or two, and again, don't stop investing, because once in a while you will hit a jackpot, like हमें chemicals में मिला ना, 20 30 40 baggers बतेरे मिले. तो upside is huge, and put a stop loss whenever you are little unsure, so that you don't lose a lot. Guys, if you have got any final questions, just put it in the reply. I've got 10 minutes more. I will see if I could answer any more. SMS Pharma, Varun, I've answered. You can check the recording, read the transcript of the earnings call, last one. Sri Digvijay. So again, Sri Digvijay is nothing great. Yeah, great management. Anil Singhvi is the best in class when it comes to cement industry. Not just cement. He is that person who would come on that Motilal Oswal fireside chat. So he has got a good handle on every sector. Cement is not a commodity, if I'm completely honest. At least in my view, it's a sort of a branded play with sort of a more like a quasi consumer business, if I could put it that way. It's in down cycle proxy to infra and development, right? Bharat Nirman ka proxy hai, nothing more. So you need a good management, good balance sheet. They recently got approval, I think, for expansion. So उतना ही है अभी तो बाकी तो इट्स ऑल देयर इन देयर एनुअल रिपोर्ट यार और बाकी वो अनिल सिंघवी साहब आते हैं CNBC and other channels पे so you can make your own informed decision. I'm invested as a disclaimer. Ramanjeet ji asking how to assess the strain improvement capabilities. So वही ना you can only guess it in from the cash flows and how many customers, clients you are winning, how many projects you are winning. That's the only. No business will tell you the moat because that's the moat. Why would Syngene or anyone tell the investors on a public forum at least? 101 तो चाहे एक बार बता भी दे if they know that they are not recording. But otherwise कैसे पता चलेगा वो no one would share and you better not share that sensitive information publicly. Any view on Realis? I've given my views recently on Realis. I'm not it's in one of the previous spaces, but in a nutshell, valuations are cheap because they haven't executed. If they execute well in future, the compliance is top notch because there's the Tata quality. But they are not in CDMO business, and the real or they haven't got any material CDMO business. The real juice is there. Chanakya, for hospitals, you have mentioned to use cash yield CFO to EV. At what multiples you would consider a bargain at what order? So I asked this question to Aditya recently, and Aditya's view was, and it's recorded on the accidental investor ka spaces hua tha abhi, I think less than a week ago, or maybe a week back. And he has given a range of EV CFO. I think I've mentioned the CFO part. So he gave the multiple for EV, EBITDA, and PE. And he's given a wide range of EV, EBITDA, I think off the top of my head, somewhere between 10 and 25. So good management, great management, 25. Bad management, 10. But why would I buy bad management? तो मैं लूंगा ही क्यों? मेरे को सस्ता नहीं चाहिए ना मुझे तो ढंग का मैनेजमेंट चाहिए so I would rather not buy a bad management if I know that the management is bad, right? So but yeah, listen to that recording. Aditya has given a very not just for hospitals, for everything in pharma. Any company into chemical waste treatment, so chemical waste treatment, while again, so these are same ion exchange type businesses. Yeah, Praj and ion exchange, those kind of businesses, they also do this ZLD type waste management. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know any other asset. Amines, yes, she is asking my view on amines. Amines are integral part, right? So you have to see which technology is better, which asset is better, not just the valuations. And they are a proxy to the pharmaceuticals for sure. But again, everything is a function of valuations. You just can't buy any asset at any valuation. How do you view Indoco? So again, I've answered Indoco previously. Thank you. 3M India, someone is asking. I'm not tracking that business. Vishwa. So Vishwa is a friend of mine from school days, right? So we did our primary and sort of high school education together. इनका YouTube का वो भी है Wealth Signal के नाम से. So it's a good he does technical analysis. Mainly is into index analysis, not just stock specific, but sometimes he do sectoral analysis as well. अभी recently इनका hospital sector पे मुझे view अच्छा लगा. He hasn't covered one or two hospitals there, so वो भी मैंने पूछा कि आपने क्यों नहीं किया. Technically, I like his skills, but yeah, we are friends, so I'm biased, right? He's oh, because he's not asking a question, he's giving a view on Medanta because I asked the question, right? So he's saying Medanta doesn't convince me on charts. Right. So I asked, you have analyzed so many hospitals, why not Medanta or Global Health? I'm not invested in Medanta. I disclosed that in that tweet. So he's saying that I can see selling pressure on charts, whereas most of the other stocks which I discussed in the video are convincing. Right. Interesting. So again, the Twitter handle is the Wealth Signal, and I think his YouTube channel is also the same. Manish Kumar Singh asking Narayana versus Apollo brand perception. यार मैं तो किसी भी हॉस्पिटल में नहीं जाना चाहूंगा and I hope none of us. So, but if I get a choice, I would prefer Narayana because I find them more ethical. Maybe because I'm invested and I'm biased, but because you see what they did in the COVID era with the vaccination, the pricing, and everything. It tells you about the character of that management, right? तो वो थोड़ा सा वो माइनॉरिटी फ्रेंडली बोलो या मासेस फ्रेंडली. तो हार्ट आपका मैनेजमेंट का ना हॉस्पिटल में वो हार्ट वाले हॉस्पिटल तो ये हैं बट यू आल्सो नीड अ गुड हार्ट. सो आई वुड प्रेफर नारायणा over over an Apollo. But again, biased view, of course. Apollo is a great brand, great asset. They have rewarded investors, and they are serving the society as well. So let's not take that away. Would Chat GPT and AI have an impact on pharma? Yes, if USFDA starts accepting their uh, clinical trials and they start so Chat GPT अगर drugs manufacture करने लगे और उसको USFDA से qualify करा ले स्केल अप करके और फाइलिंग करके तो देन चैट जीपीटी ही रहेगा. सिंजीन बंद हो जाएगा. Praj industry, Shashank, we have covered the view. It's recorded. um, okay, so I think we are done with the questions. I mean, they're never ending questions. So I think let's call it a day here. We can catch up again at some other point. I think most of the answers. So Genbert Pharma, Vinay Jadwani is asking about Genbert Pharma. So last question I can take. So I'm not invested in Genbert because they have not been able to scale up. So Albert David, Genbert, they've been around for several years. But because it's a branded business, na, so that is why I say moat hoti hai business. It's not easy to scale up a branded business. So these businesses are good, but the scale up is not there. So I like branded business where operating cash flow is compounding at 15% CAGR, mota mati. So every 5 to 7 years, you're doubling your operating cash flow. Your margins, operating margins are near 20%. Your ROE, ROC is above 20%, and you have no debt on your balance sheet. Net cash balance sheet हो तो और भी अच्छा. मुझे ऐसे वाले ब्रांडेड फार्मा ज्यादा अच्छे लगते हैं. व्यूज ऑन आईटी views are good as long as you're in cloud and SaaS based areas. Again, if you are compounding your cash flows, most IT businesses generate good cash flows. um, तो वो अच्छा है. Newgen is one such. Again, disclaimer, I'm invested, so biased view. But मुझे छोटे वाले जो है ना SaaS based, यही ठीक लगते हैं. थोड़ा सा अगर रिसेशन आएगा वेस्टर्न इकोनॉमीज में तो कहीं ना कहीं वो जो डिस्क्रेशनरी स्पेंड होता है वो हिट लेगा. सो जस्ट बी माइंडफुल ऑफ द वैल्यूएशंस एंड like any other sector when they are down and out, and that's the time to buy them. So much for this session, guys. Lovely, great set of questions. I enjoyed the interaction. Great learning for me. I always learn from your questions, and that's why I do these sessions. The learning is always mutual. So thank you for asking low IQ questions. कोई high IQ नहीं पूछा उसके लिए thank you. And again, just to repeat the disclaimer, um, it's just an opinion. Consult your financial advisor. I'm not a registered advisor, and I'm not here to sell anything. So no recommendation. Thank you, guys, and God bless. Bye. 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 And God bless. Bye.